Hey guys, welcome to Plan the Day on Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman, founder and CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us on the radio or watch us on YouTube or Facebook Live. Hope we have a lot of people watching us out there today. We record our radio show live every Tuesday. Every once in a while we skip a Tuesday, but most of the time we're here at 8:30 in the morning on Tuesdays, bringing you education about retirement planning, income planning, tax planning, healthcare planning. We talk about so many different things on this show, and we always try to make it a little entertaining. And today should be quite entertaining because we came up with this neat idea. Do you guys remember watching cartoons growing up? I was a big cartoon guy on Saturday mornings. I always remember watching cartoons. My mom would make me cereal or whatever the case may be. And then I always remember the Globetrotters. The Globetrotters always came on right after the cartoons. But me and Bobby were sitting around last week. We're about to do some TV shows, and we were just thinking of fun ideas. And we thought about what can some cartoon characters actually teach us about retirement planning. And I think we're going to have a fun show today. And we're going to have some great topics of conversation around some of these characters that we're going to discuss today. As always, I got my team in here, Tim McDermott, Bobby Fudge. How you guys doing this morning?
Good. Good morning, Gary.
I'm doing well. I was just thinking about Bugs Bunny and the "What's up, Doc?" You know,
What's up,
I don't know
Doc?
if I could do that.
You
What's
should try.
up, Doc?
There you go.
That's right. That's right. And Bugs Bunny is funny. Tim brings up Bugs Bunny because he's going to be the first character we talk about this morning. And gentlemen, it's always funny. I mean, of course, most people remember Bugs Bunny growing up. And when Bobby and you and I started talking about this, we started thinking, man, he's always a step ahead of the game. Like, Bugs Bunny never got frazzled. He never got frustrated or emotional or whatever the case may be. He was always prepared when it came to what's coming next. He never panicked. And, Bobby, I'll start with you. I mean, that's a big deal when it comes to retirement planning is being one step ahead or not freaking out in certain situations.
Yeah, without a doubt. And over the years, and it's been a long time. So I took some notes. Gary and Tim haven't seen this. Don't look at my notes.
Don't
Tim.
cheat. Tim's a cheater, man.
I didn't know this was a quiz.
I've got dates for when all of these cartoon characters first showed up.
Oh, God, I love it.
You want to take a guess when Bugs Bunny made his debut?
I'm going to say in the early 1900s.
I'm going to say 1940s.
You looked at my notes.
I
He
didn't.
cheated.
I did.
1940s when Bugs Bunny first showed up. And to your point, Gary, like over all that time, right? 80 plus years.
Is this before or after World War II? Or do you know?
Well, see, that started in 41, right? So I would have to say beforehand.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So he's running around with the likes of Elmer Fudd, Yosemite Sam, Daffy Duck. He's always trying to stay, to Gary's point, one step ahead of these folks, and that's right. I mean, that's really what you want with a good retirement plan is you're going to run into the Elmer Fudds of retirement planning.
Sure,
whether that's inflation or taxes. Yosemite Sam's always out there, so
Yeah.
you need to make sure that when you put a plan together, you're as adaptable as Bugs Bunny, and man, he's one of the most adaptable characters we're going to talk about today.
It is. And, Tim, I like what Bobby was saying there because there's a word you use a lot that when it comes to, someone's retirement plan, it needs to be able to breathe. It needs to be flexible. And I think Bugs Bunny can teach us some things like that as far as calm down, make some decisions, get ahead of the game.
Yeah. Can I go off on a rabbit trail for just a second?
Rabbit.
No pun intended.
No pun intended there, rabbit trail.
I would argue that, and look, one of my favorite cartoon growing up was actually Tom and Jerry.
Okay, I love it.
And Jerry always had a plan, right? He always had a hole to dive into. He always had an escape route. He always had somewhere to go. But Tom was always chasing the mouse, right? Chasing the next best thing. And that's something we see a lot of too, right? We see a lot of, Bitcoin is out. We got to go buy some. And we're always chasing down the next best thing, right? And it seems like you never get a hold of it, right? I'd be very careful about running around and trying to chase a return at the same time. But just like Bugs Bunny, Jerry always had a plan.
I mean, Bobby, what are some of the things we're talking about? We're talking about being flexible, having a plan that's breathable. What are some things that can happen throughout your retirement plan? I mean, we talk about all the time, if you retire at 65, you need to be looking at a 30-year plan because of longevity risk. So what are some things some people might face in that 30-year time frame period that they need to be more like Bugs Bunny?
Yeah, I think the big one now is sequence of return risk.
Oh, okay,
And
good.
Tim and I talk about that all the time. You know, there are a handful of reasons why we're seeing a lot more volatility in today's markets, and I think it's here to stay. You know, Tim and I talk about this all the time. You know, with the number of investors in the market, you know, these big funds that are in the market, you know, less pensions, more 401ks,
Right,
with individual decision makers. There's half a dozen different things that introduce volatility in the stock market, and none of those are going away. So the sequence of return risk and the volatility that makes that really a potential roadblock in retirement is big. So that's one of them that can really hammer you if you make emotional decisions.
People, Tim, do you think people go into retirement with this set it, forget it mentality? Like it's in place. I don't need to worry about anything. I'm just going to retire.
Yeah, not Guardian clients.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I hope they don't have to think about too much, right? Now that we've put together a plan for them.
Right.
But yes, I mean, we see that a lot, right? I built up this 401k. I worked hard to do it. I finally reached my goal of whatever your number is, $1 million, and you just pull some money out of there when you need it, right? I find that that's ineffective, right? There's no tax planning involved. What if the market crashes? Are you trying to chase the next return? Is it going to keep up with inflation, right? We talk about healthcare a lot, and that we see that just cripple income plan. People do planning and don't think about the healthcare side, and that will cripple them. Right?
You have to have a
absolutely.
proactive plan.
That's right.
This is an imperfect analogy, and I use it all the time, but it's like your favorite GPS app on your phone.
Right.
Right. If you want to go visit family in Florida, like I do every once in a while, you don't just put it in there, look at it once, and then turn it off and follow it. Right?
That's right.
It can change along the way depending on what goes on.
There could be an accident in front of you, whatever the case may be.
Any number of things. And so you have to be able to put that framework in place and be able to adapt it and change it over time.
Gotcha. Let's jump up into another character. I mean, we know Bugs Bunny always stayed in front of everything. That Tim, quit cheating. You're looking at Bobby's notes there. And I love this character because he was always a lot of fun to watch. And that's Daffy Duck, Bobby. Let's start with you. Daffy Duck, man, what an emotional duck this guy was.
Yeah,
I mean, he was all over the place.
That dude was absolutely all over the place. You know, some of the words that I wrote down is emotional, reactive.
Yeah.
He was certainly loud. You know,
Yeah.
panicked
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Right.
About the same time as Bugs Bunny, I'll give you that hint. What year did Daffy Duck?
So I say
make his
Daffy probably came out about 10 years later.
Really?
So that would be a good guess for me too. I'd say 1950s.
So Daffy is actually earlier than Bugs
Oh,
Bunny.
wow.
1937.
Okay.
Right? And it always appears that dude always loses, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
He's always getting beat up or harassed by somebody. His beak always spins around to the backside of his head, which is kind of funny. But it's because he's so emotional. You know, he's like the panic sellers we see, those folks chasing the Bitcoin. All that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the new thing your uncle told you to invest in doesn't work out, and you freak out like Daffy Duck.
You know, Tim, it got me thinking about, we got some times coming up. We know the summer is usually emotional in the markets. We know we have midterm elections coming up. So I think we could speak to a lot of people right now that maybe are feeling a little bit emotional about the end of 2026.
Yeah, 2026 is an interesting year because we're in those midterm elections, and it's interesting, right? People move in patterns. We see patterns all throughout history, and this is one of those years where midterm elections causes volatility, and it causes volatility not necessarily because something may change legislatively. The volatility comes before the elections even happen because of the uncertainty of the conversation, right? Who's going to take over? What is Congress going to flip? What's that going to look like? And no one's sure, and that's what actually creates some volatility along the way. So moving into the summer months, expect to see a little bit of a downturn. Doesn't mean you need to Daffy Duck it and flip your beak around backwards, right? It doesn't mean you need to go chase some kind of return that you think might be there. It just means that there's going to be a little volatility that we have to ride through. We run some strategies that are proactive to this, and they're not proactive in the sense that we're trying to time the market. They're proactive in the sense that we know what these trends have looked like for the last 75 years, and we're just looking to take advantage of it, right?
So do you see that some people are like Daffy Duck and they miss some upswings in the market because they pulled out too early? They got emotional. They weren't disciplined enough, Bobby, to stick with the plan.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and that's part of why we put plans together, and we have really in-depth conversations about individuals' risk tolerances.
Sure.
because midterm elections are going to happen. They happen regularly. And we have data back to, the 1950s to
Right,
show that,
yeah.
yes, there is going to be some volatility here. But, Gary, if you're taking the appropriate amount of risk in your portfolio to reach your goals,
Yeah.
we know this is going to happen, so it's factored in.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a big
And-
deal.
And having that peace of mind of knowing that it's going to happen and you're planning for it should allow you to go through the summer months. I mean, you don't have to enjoy it, right? Volatility is not fun for anybody.
Right.
But it's not unexpected. That's the
Correct,
important part.
correct. Let's just jump into another character. We got about 2.5 minutes left on this segment, but let's jump into Scrooge McDuck. I mean, this guy was rolling in money.
Yeah.
Rolling in money, Tim. He was a great saver,
Yep.
but he didn't know how to spend his money. That's crazy.
Yeah. The thing with Scrooge McDuck.
Fear of spending, I should say. Yeah.
Scrooge McDuck was very tight. Kept his pennies right between his fingers and didn't let go of them. Right. You worked hard your whole life. You saved really well. You grew that money. Now it's time to go enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
And here's what I find more than not is people don't go spend because they're concerned of that running out of money issue.
Right, sure.
We have developed over the last few years. We've seen this a few times, and we say, "Hey, look, you can afford it. Go spend it." And they're like, "I really don't want to." And we develop them a guilt-free spending plan.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for, guilt-free. Yeah, because you say that to people all the time. Don't feel guilty about spending this money. You got to plan for it. I know you want to leave money for your children, grandchildren, your favorite charity. We've got that bucket of money set aside. Is that right, Bobby?
That's exactly right. And being able to produce that reliable income in retirement allows you to have, what we call that mailbox money. We don't send a lot of paper checks anymore, but that money's going to show up.
Sure.
And if it's a reliable income, go spend it. Go spend it on whatever you want to
Go
spend
have
it
some
on.
fun, right?
Scrooge-
Especially in your go-go years.
Scrooge needed some green bucket money, is what he needed.
He needed
exactly
some
right.
green bucket money, and that's why we use our bucket system. I mean, he could have left some money in the green bucket, had that income. He didn't have to worry about it. Left some money in the red bucket. That could have been his play money or his legacy money. Yeah. And, of course, he had his yellow bucket of money in case something happened, some emergency came up. But that's why at Guardian Investment Advisors, we use a bucket strategy. We make retirement planning simple using 3 buckets, red, yellow, and green. If you have a little bit of money in all of those buckets, then you're going to have a great retirement. And like Tim said, you won't feel guilty for spending some money. You can live the lifestyle you want, maintain the lifestyle you want, and that's what it's all about. So what have we learned from Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Scrooge McDuck? There's some different things that we learned from all of those guys going into retirement planning. When we come back, we're going to hit some more characters. It's going to be a lot of fun. As always, we'd love to offer you a copy of my book, Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. In Chattanooga, you can text the word book, 423-710-9199. In Knoxville, text the word book, 865-951-7526. And you can always go to plantodayoffer.com, plantodayoffer.com, or scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen if you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook. We'll get a book sent right out to you. So when we come back, we're going to hit some more characters from the cartoon days. We'll be right back.
We know the market is going to get worse from here. This is the biggest monthly decline in 10 years. People's 401ks took a major hit.
Well, my investments are tanking. My retirement isn't going as planned. I can't believe I let my kid talk me into buying crypto. I mean, what is that anyway?
This was the 4th worst contraction in history.
So how are you two doing?
Your financial future doesn't have to be uncertain. I'm Gary Thurman with Guardian Investment Advisors. If you've amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. This is one of the greatest tax windows in history. Now is the time to take advantage of this tax discount while you can. All of our advisors are fiduciaries that specialize in retirement planning, tax mitigation, estate planning, and more. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your own complimentary portfolio review and tax analysis. Welcome back to Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman, founder and CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. Thanks for joining us on the radio. Thanks for joining us live on Facebook or YouTube this morning. We appreciate every single one of you taking time out of your day to listen in, to get educated, to have a little fun talking about retirement planning. Today, we're having a fun show. We're talking about cartoon characters and actually what we can learn from them. So we talked about Bugs Bunny. He was always a step ahead. He never got rattled about anything. He always had a plan to be the top of his game, at the top of his game, let me say. We talked about Daffy Duck being the emotional duck, the emotional investor, making just crazy decisions based on emotions only, not having a plan together, which was a lot of fun. Then we talked about Scrooge McDuck. Scrooge McDuck was a great saver, but he just didn't know how to spend money. So that was in our first segment. If you didn't catch it, go back and listen to it on our website, giaplantoday.com, giaplantoday.com.
Gary, I left out my trivia question.
Oh, what's the
I won't-
trivia
I
question?
won't
Go ahead.
I won't ask you the date that Scrooge McDuck came out, 1947.
Okay.
But he had his favorite thing called his number one dime, his first dime he ever made. You remember how he made his number one dime?
I don't.
He was a shoe shiner.
Oh, shoe shiner.
That's
nice.
how he made his first dime back in 1947.
He must have shined a lot of shoes because he ended up making a lot of money, right? A lot of fun. So we're jumping into a little bit of a tax conversation, income, government benefits. And I like this character because I remember as a young man, and yes, I'm showing my age a little bit, Richie Rich. Richie Rich was one of my favorite cartoons because you watched that cartoon, you thought, man, this kid has everything. Like, kind of gave you that dream of like, man, I wish I was Richie Rich one day. I wish I had all this money, which we know at Guardian Investment Advisors, there's a lot more to being rich in retirement. But here's what Richie Rich did not have. Tim, I'm going to start with you on this one. He didn't have a tax strategy.
Yeah, I mean, this the problem with most Richie Rich, right? The tax strategy. You want to know how to pay your fair share in taxes, but not a dime more, right? Keep that first dime in your pocket, if you will. The whole goal here is to develop something that is efficient and proactive in the tax world. Right now, our current tax strategy is quote unquote permanent, right? And all it takes is legislation to put one bill through to change all of that and say, okay, taxes are going up. I'll save you guys the big spiel, but we have a ton of debt in the United States, and we have to pay that back somehow. The United States government really has only one source of income, and that's taxes. So we think taxes have to go up in the future. How are we dealing with that right now? We're trying to get Uncle Sam out of your pocket. Pay Uncle Sam to go away right now and live a tax-free lifestyle. There's a few strategies for that, but one that is super effective in today's world, Roth conversions. Right.
So why is right now the optimal time to be thinking about Roth conversions?
Because our taxes are cheap, right?
Third
Because
lowest we've seen ever in this country of ours.
Third lowest, yep. And so we're thinking taxes will go up. So get Uncle Sam out of your pocket. It's kind of like the mob following you around, right? Pay them off, let them go their own way, and maybe the IRS shouldn't listen to this one yet.
Yeah.
Somebody's getting audited.
Pay Uncle Sam, have him go away, and live a tax-free life. That's the way you keep more in your pocket. It's the way you grow more efficiently. It makes a lot of sense in today's world for a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people think about when you hear the word diversification, they talk about owning different assets and different growth buckets because they all behave a little bit differently. But an important one is having tax diversification.
Oh, sure.
Right. There are really three main ways accounts get taxed under the IRS. You have that full taxable money, which is the 401ks, the IRAs. You got, taxable accounts, brokerage accounts that are still taxed, but at generally a lower rate than an IRA or a 401k.
Sure.
And then you have Roth IRAs that, once you pay your taxes, you never owe a dime of tax on that again. That's right. And so being diversified from an income tax or a capital gains tax standpoint can be a really powerful thing moving forward.
And Tim, how big of a deal is it to have a tax strategy if you're someone, let's say you retire at 65 years old, and all of your money's in some kind of pre-tax account, 401k, 457, IRAs, whatever. When you hit the beautiful age of 73 to 74 to 75, based on your date of birth, you got to start paying RMDs. And I know you guys have sat down with a tremendous amount of clients. They just didn't realize the impact of how that was going to increase their tax bracket when they hit the age 73.
Yeah, we've seen this dozens of times just over the last year. And talk about good problems, right? Good problem meaning that Uncle Sam said you have to start taking money out of these accounts. RMD stands for Required Minimum Distributions, by the way. You made a deal with Uncle Sam when you started that 401k. Do you want to pay me now or do you want to pay me later? And by going into that pre-tax 401k, you said, I'm going to pay you later. Well, at some point, Uncle Sam says, that's long enough. Now you have to pay me.
Yeah.
And so you take out those required minimum distributions, and you're forced to pay those taxes. Good problems mean that, hey, you didn't necessarily want or need that income, but you're forced to take it. And so part of what Bobby and I have been doing over the last year with tons of clients is talking to them about how do we avoid taking that RMD, because you don't want that income. We don't
Right.
want to pay that tax.
Right.
We don't
Right.
need to pay that tax. So
Right.
Roth conversions, again, will help with that. Get Uncle Sam out of your pocket. Once you get into that Roth IRA, fun fact, Roth IRAs don't have required minimum distributions.
It's a big deal.
So you can leave it in there. It can continue to grow tax-free.
And Bobby, I'm going to jump on you with this, the old myth out there. When I retire, my taxes are going to be lower.
Yeah, that's probably not true anymore. It used to be true, back in the early 80s when 401ks were first introduced.
When you
It
had a
made-
pension, you had a Social Security.
It made perfect sense then. Tax rates were a lot higher than they are now, so you wanted that immediate income tax deduction, thinking that when your income went down, you're going to be paying less. It's flipped right now, right? We
Yeah.
mentioned we're in the third lowest income tax bracket we've ever been in now, and people are still hung up, a lot of folks, on this. I need the income tax deduction of Roth contributions or 401k contributions.
If you're young out there, by the way,
Oh, man.
and you're listening
Yeah.
to us, or you're talking to your kids, your grandkids
Yeah.
about how to invest, Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, there are more and more companies offering the Roth 401k
Sure.
plan. I would highly encourage
Listen,
that.
if you're going to retire in 10, 15, 20 plus years from now, income tax rates have to go up.
Oh, sure.
$39 trillion in debt. We're adding $5 million,
$5 million per minute.
a minute. We got to pay for that somehow, and that's got to be taxes.
It's a big deal. So I think you got to have a tax plan like Richie Rich did not going into retirement. It doesn't matter how much you have, it's how much you get to keep after Uncle Sam gets his part. Right, gentlemen? All right, we're jumping into one of my favorite characters ever. This is a show I watched every single Saturday, and that's Mr. Fred Flintstone.
Yabba dabba doo.
Yabba dabba doo. Fred Flintstone. So, Fred Flintstone, he worked for a rock company his whole life. He had a pension. He was going to get Social Security. But, Bobby, like you said, that has changed a lot. But you have a pension. Congratulations. That's a beautiful thing. You get Social Security. Congratulations. That's a beautiful thing. What if that's not enough to maintain your lifestyle?
Yeah, he's a great example of what it used to look like to retire, right? You work for one company forever, you have that pension. 1960, by the way, is when Fred Flintstone first
Fred Flintstone,
showed
1960,
up.
nice.
1960. And really, he's just like he went on bowling league. He had office politics he dealt with. He's like the old pensioner that has that one of 15% that has pensions.
Yep.
It is a good example of an entertaining cartoon. It's a good example of how to not plan for retirement.
Sure.
right? Most people aren't going to have the benefits that Fred Flintstone had. Companies don't offer pensions. Most people don't stay at the same company their whole working career. So you really need to look at him and say, I've got to take this into my own hands, right? You've got to fund your own retirement, whether that be IRAs or brokerage accounts, or take control of those 401ks as you move companies.
So, stat you and I pulled up, Bobby, just last week shooting TV. About 3 million people are going to retire this year, Tim. 3 million people in America are going to retire. 15% of those have a pension. That's 450,000 people out of 3 million people.
Yep.
So what the heck are the other, 1.5 million, 2 million people going to do? But they don't have a pension. What are they going to do?
They create their own.
Okay.
That's where our green bucket comes into play. It allows us to get you a guaranteed income source that cannot go away due to any type of market downturn. It's mailbox money. The money ends up in your mailbox every single month, no matter what happens. And it's a way to kind of replace that old pension plan and keep yourself in a place where you're not so worried about what's going on in the market. If you're concerned about spending money because you're going to run out of money, it's a way to get a guilt-free income.
Yeah.
The money's going to come every month, so you
Yeah.
might as well go spend it, right? And it's a way to secure and guarantee a certain portion of income so that you don't have to worry about things in retirement.
That's a great point, Tim. And so many people get hung up on a particular account balance when they retire.
Yeah.
I want to have $1 million in my 401k or whatever that number is. That's really not the right way to be looking at it, right? You don't need to secure a pile of money. You need to secure income streams.
Sure.
That asset is important, right? It's going to be used to create that income stream, but you need to make sure that you're having that money show up every month or every year so you can spend in retirement and not be worried about running out of money.
I do also want to point out that Fred Flintstone probably stayed pretty healthy in retirement. He had to
Well, he had to move rock for a living.
He had to push his own car
push his
around.
own car, and he had stone wheels, by the way, and
That's
his whole
right.
family in it.
I mean, his calf muscles were huge. And I want to save our last character, but really quick, Bobby, I'll go to you. How quick or how important is it to optimize Social Security when you're talking about income?
Oh, it's the cornerstone of an income plan,
Sure.
right? Everybody's got it nowadays. You got to make sure you make the decisions to make it work the best for you. Not how your uncle did it, not how your dad did it. And there's 500 and some odd ways to file. So
Yeah.
you need to talk to somebody that knows what's going on.
You got to be able to create an income plan. That way you can go through retirement not worried about anything. Maintain that lifestyle that you want to maintain. And I love Tim saying you can spend money without feeling guilty about it. And that's what we try to do for you here at Guardian Investment Advisors. Hey, listen, you can go to plantodayoffer.com or scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen, plantodayoffer.com, and get a copy of my book, Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. You can also text the word book to the Chattanooga number, 423-710-9199, or text the word book up in Knoxville, 865-951-7526. So, we got another character we're going to talk about when we come back. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back. Hi, my name is Gary Thurman, owner and CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. For years, our team has helped thousands of retirees and pre-retirees build a confident, predictable, and stress-free retirement plan. If you've worked hard for 30, 40 years, you deserve a retirement that works for you, not one filled with uncertainty, rising healthcare costs, or market concerns. At Guardian Investment Advisors, we take a comprehensive approach to retirement. That means we help you with building a reliable income plan so you know exactly where your paychecks will come from. Navigate Medicare with clarity, making sure you pick the right coverage to avoid costly mistakes. Preparing for long-term care needs with smart planning and protection strategies. Managing your investments with a personalized portfolio tailored to your goals, risk tolerance, and your retirement timeline. Reduce taxes wherever possible with proactive planning so you keep more of your hard-earned savings. You deserve a retirement plan built specifically for you, not a one-size-fits-all approach. Plan your retirement the right way. Call us today or connect with us using one of the many options below. Let's get started empowering your retirement right now. Thank you. Welcome back to Plan the Day on Tomorrow. Gary Thurman, founder and CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. I am not going to share the conversation we just had at break right there, but we were having a lot of fun and a lot of laughs on the show.
We should shake a magic 8-ball to find out if we should share it or not.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be a fun show. Shake the 8-ball and see what, and just talk about it, right? Lots of fun today talking about cartoon characters. And we didn't use any of the newer cartoon characters. We kind of went back old school with the cartoon characters. We talked about Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Scrooge McDuck. We talked about Fred Flintstone and Richie Rich, who've had a lot of fun. And I'm very interested in hearing your perspective on our next character, gentlemen, because this was probably one of my favorite cartoons, I'll be honest with you, because it was just cool. It was just like, wow, is that the future that we're looking at? And we're talking about George Jetson, because George Jetson, I mean, AI is a big deal for us right now. He had AI back then. Mm-hmm. He already had an AI robot. He had a flying car. He had all these neat things that, a lot of people say is going to come in the future for us. Well, AI is here. We know that, and we're using AI, for some great reasons. But, Bobby, I'll start with you on this one. George Jetson, he was always looking ahead.
That's right. You want to get disappointed for a second, and then I'll be more positive.
Wait, do we get to guess the year?
Yes. Well, this is different. 1962.
Oh,
But when was
I was gonna
George
say seven.
Jetson born? According to the cartoon, when was George Jetson
So
born?
it came out in 1962, so I'm going to say he
we're
was
in the
born
future, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're in the future. Yeah.
We were in the future back in 1962. July 31st, 2022.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. He's young.
So George Jetson is
He's
about
young.
to turn 4, right? We don't have his flying car or his robot.
No, thank
yet.
goodness, though.
But
We
we got
don't-
a couple years.
We got some pretty cool jets that lift straight off the ground now and take off. Yeah.
We don't have people who can drive cars in the ground. We
Yeah,
don't need
exactly. We do
flying
not
cars.
need a bunch of people flying around, especially in Chattanooga, Knoxville.
To your point, though, it's a cartoon that we can take a lot of cues and lessons from because he was living in the future. He was thinking forward, right? We're supposed to have flying cars. We're supposed to have all these things that certainly didn't exist in 1962. We're getting close to some of those now. But the point is like, you've got to look forward in retirement and say, not only plan for today, but plan for what could happen in 20 and 30 years. And it's part of that flexible retirement plan because it's going to look different then than it looks now.
So why is longevity risk such a big deal, Tim? I mean, life expectancy mid 80s right now. So if you retire at 65, that's just 20 years.
Yeah, I think George Jetson's life expectancy would be probably in the 90s at this point. I haven't looked up recent stats, but newborns born today would be in the 90s.
No, absolutely.
We're living longer and longer. Living longer is great. We're having medical advancements that allow us to live longer and do more and see more. But it also creates other issues, right? That pile of money that you worked for has to last you longer. That healthcare plan gets more and more expensive. We're spending longer amounts of times in nursing homes, and
Right.
we're living longer, sicker.
Yeah, I want to hit that hard for a few minutes. Longevity risks. Bobby, bring this up. You and I talked about this on TV the other day. Inflation. I mean, it's not going away.
Yeah, inflation overall right now is up, about 3%.
You remember that Wall Street Journal article in March? It was up 3.3% in March,
and
just last month.
3.3. You look at it and go, well, it's creeping up. That's not something we necessarily want to see, but that's overall. That's all the things that they measure inflation for, and it's a bunch. If you go pull healthcare out of that, over the next 10, 15 years, it's expected to be a 5+% inflation per year, right? And if that's what's happening early on in your retirement, it could get higher.
Yeah.
The point is you have to plan for these things. It could be the biggest expense you have in retirement. And that's if you stay healthy. If you end up getting sick, needing long-term care help, whether it's at home or in a facility, I promise you it's going to be the most expensive thing you have to pay for in retirement.
You just brought up something that reminded me of a study Fidelity did. A healthy 65-year-old couple, and this was about a year ago. A healthy 65-year-old right now is going to need about $172,000 just for general health care in retirement because of longevity risk. Multiply that times 5, I'm thinking we're around $180,000, $181,000. And then that times 5, then that times 5, then that times 5. And Tim, you brought up the point of healthcare planning. I think one of the things that we see people do wrong all the time, not only do they take their Social Security at the wrong time, let's go ahead and point that out, they don't choose the right Medicare plan. And people just think, it's Medicare. Everybody gets Medicare. I'll just take this plan. And, of course, that's why we have Tanner on staff. How important it is for someone to really study and work with someone that actually knows how Medicare works.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. People usually think, it's just Medicare. When I'm 65, it'll kick on, and then things are taken care of, right?
Yeah.
And then I think you realize about 3 to 6 months before that time frame, if you haven't done any research before then, that there's a ton of options on the table when you start getting this phone call and that phone call, and somebody talks about this getting free and this
Oh, my
rebate,
gosh.
whatever else that
Free
goes
gym
on, right?
memberships and all this stuff, yeah.
And so then you feel like you're in a crunch time and you've got to pick a plan, and now it's very overwhelming. Well, that's what Tanner Moore does, right? He'll help walk you through all these different options. He'll talk to you about your health care. He'll talk to you about what prescription drugs you're on, and he'll help you find a plan that actually fits what you need.
Right.
Because unfortunately, it's not just as simple as this is the most expensive premium or the least expensive premium. All the factors of co-pays and what doctors you see and are they in network and what drug plan can you be on, all those factors make a difference. I talk about it like I know about it. I know enough to get you into trouble. That's why I sit
You know
down
enough
the
to walk
hall
him down to Tanner's office,
Tanner's
right?
office, that's right.
I overheard Tanner on the phone call the other day, guys, and I just popped in his office and was listening to the phone conversation, and he was talking to a current Medicare client of ours that got on a new prescription, and it was a pretty heavy prescription, a very costly prescription. Tanner sat there and on a 10-minute phone call went through, I think, 4 or 5 different pharmacies and ended up saving, she was a female, ended up saving her, let's call it $50 a month in a prescription cost because he did the research to find the right prescription. $50 a month in retirement adds up.
By going to a different store.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's crazy. So, Bobby, I want to, the last part of this segment, I want to talk about long-term care. It's nothing anybody wants to talk about, but we know 7 out of 10 folks right now retiring today, 7 out of 10 of those folks are going to need some type of long-term care. I did some research really quick this morning, and the numbers are about the same, but general in-home care, somebody coming to your house, $2,500 to $3,000 a month. First of all, that's a lot of money, gentlemen. If you have to go into some kind of assisted living, we're around $4,500 to $5,000 a month. Then God forbid, if if you get Alzheimer's or whatever the case may be, you need full skill care. Guys, we're up to about $10,000 a month. I talked to a client in Knoxville a couple of weeks ago, and they said, "Well, I'll just get on Medicaid." Yeah. And I'm like, "Are you sure you want to get on Medicaid?" I don't think you do, because they're going to spend all of your money first.
Yeah, there's a couple of issues with that, and that's not an uncommon thought when people come in. You have to spend almost everything you've saved to even apply for Medicaid, right? You have to have assets no more than $2,000. No one wants to spend all their money, especially if you've got a spouse at home.
Oh,
right?
gosh.
Because that just leaves them with nothing after you're done spending that money, and then you have very little control over your care or where you're at in Medicaid. Sure. Right? You're going to go into a facility that has an opening. You have to go to the hospital. Guess what? Your bed's been full, and now you're going somewhere else. There are much better ways to plan for long-term care.
Well, I've got long-term care insurance. Or you know what? The only solution is long-term care insurance, and I can't qualify for it, and I can't afford it.
Well, I would say if you have it, good for you, right?
But you might be able to change it.
Yeah.
Right?
If you have traditional long-term care, good for you. Let's look at it. Most of the time, we tell people to keep it as long as they can afford it. Rates are going up and up and up and up and up.
Right.
And it won't stop. There are a lot better solutions now, Gary, than traditional long-term care insurance.
Okay, give us a few examples.
Insurance providers right now that are providing fixed indexed annuities are now allowing a lot of folks to put long-term care type benefits on
Correct.
called a multi-benefit rider. So we can use that to if we're using an FIA to guarantee you an income. Oh, by the way, there are a lot of providers that will double that income for you for up to 5 years if you need it. It's not reimbursement expenses. It comes right to you. God forbid you fail 2 of your 6 ADLs. If you want to stay at home, great. They can help pay for that. And then, if you've already have your income taken care of, there are other FIAs, fixed index annuities, that will allow safe growth. We can guarantee you not to lose principal in a contract like this, get a reasonable amount of money, reasonable amount of growth, rather. And then, God forbid, you get sick, the insurance company will unlock all that money and send it back to you.
Just give it back to you.
Just give it back
as
to
much
you.
as you want.
all
Tell me, are
about-
there any other options for long-term care planning?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's all about leveraging the asset, right? We're allowing a bucket of money to do 2, 3, 4 things for you all at once, and it allows you to not throw money into an insurance program for 20, 30 years, pass away in your sleep like we all want to,
And lose all that money.
and your kids don't see a dime of it, right?
Those things work best when you're like George Jetson, though, and start planning for it earlier.
Right,
Because
I
you
like
get
that.
roll-ups, you get growth.
Sure.
And it costs a lot less to get that coverage you might need.
And let's finish this segment talking about ADLs really quick. So I don't have to be in a nursing home. I don't have to be in an assisted living home to get these benefits, Bobby?
That's exactly right. So there's a list of 6 ADLs. It's being able to get dressed, feed yourself, go to the bathroom,
Mobility,
continence,
there's a
mobility,
couple
those
things,
sorts
yeah.
of things. Most of these programs, if you have your doctor sign off and say, Gary or Tim, you can't do 2 of those things, doctor signs off, they'll pay the benefit.
And it's paid directly to you.
Paid directly
And you
to
can
you.
use the money for whatever you want.
That's right.
I mean, you don't have to use it for care.
Yeah.
Take a cruise for a year.
But a good example of that is traditional long-term care wouldn't pay to put a ramp on the front of your house.
Sure.
Right.
Wouldn't pay to help you get a mobility van, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
This can't help with those things.
So we're having a lot of fun today. We've talked about Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Scrooge McDuck. We talked about Richie Rich, Fred Flintstone, and we finished with George Jetson. When we come back on our last segment, we're going to talk about building your retirement game plan, how we can take all of these notes, all of these lessons we've learned from these cartoon characters, and put a plan in place for you. Now, if you'd like a copy of my book, Plan Today, Own Tomorrow, in Chattanooga, text the word book to 423-710-9199. Up in the Knoxville area, text the word book 865-951-7526. You can also go to plantodayoffer.com, or if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen, and we'll send the book right out to you. When we come back, we're going to talk about building your perfect retirement plan. We'll be back.
We know the market is going to get worse from here. This is the biggest monthly decline in 10 years. People's 401ks took a major hit.
Well, my investments are tanking. My retirement isn't going as planned. I can't believe I let my kid talk me into buying crypto. I mean, what is that anyway?
This was the 4th worst contraction in history.
So how are you two doing?
Your financial future doesn't have to be uncertain. I'm Gary Thurman with Guardian Investment Advisors. If you've amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. This is one of the greatest tax windows in history. Now is the time to take advantage of this tax discount while you can. All of our advisors are fiduciaries that specialize in retirement planning,
tax mitigation, estate planning, and more. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your own complimentary portfolio review and tax analysis.
Welcome back to Plan the Day on tomorrow. You guys might stop. I was trying not to laugh, but the guys are making me laugh in here, acting like Ricky Bobby. They don't know what to do with their hands. Have a lot of fun talking about cartoon characters today, lessons we can learn from those characters. So we're going to wrap today's show up with us, building a plan for you and talk about really what we do here at Guardian Investment Advisors for each one of our clients to make your retirement be like a Saturday every single day. That's our whole goal. Be like a Saturday. Have fun. Get up when you want to get up. Do what you want to do. So let's talk about the steps, gentlemen, or let's say the layers of building a perfect retirement plan. So I'm just going to go back and forth. Tim, give me your first point on building the perfect plan.
Income always has to start with income. Do you have your income secured, and is it efficient? Is it guaranteed? Is it there to take care of the things that you're going to need in retirement?
So income comes with what? Social Security?
Comes with social. That's usually the first step, right?
That's the foundation.
How do we optimize Social Security? On top of that, we're going to find out: are you renting some properties, or do you have a pension in place? Do you have other sources of income that you'll use throughout retirement? And then we want to find out what the gap is. So maybe you've got $7,000 a month coming in with all those different sources.
Yeah.
You need about $10,000 to support your lifestyle. Well, we're going to look at that gap and say we need about another $3,000, and here's the key: we want it net.
Right, absolutely.
After taxes. And so we're looking at how do we fill that gap and how much do we need to actually fill that gap to guarantee things for you.
So income planning is step one. I think we all agree to that. You got to have an income that's going to be there for 25, 30, 35, 40 years. And that includes your spouse, if you have a spouse. Bobby, give me another point. The perfect retirement plan.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is we got to figure out what that goal is. Right?
Sure.
So it starts with a conversation about what do you want your retirement to look like, and then we can plan for that income that you need to live every day like a Saturday. I would say the second, probably most important part is make sure we can make that income, that retirement income, those paychecks and playchecks, as we like to call it, as tax efficient as possible.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. We can just kind of be, we can take a 20-pound sledgehammer and income plan with it, and you're going to pay a lot more in taxes and giving a lot more to Uncle Sam than you need to. So being able to plan for that income being as tax efficient as possible is really important. And to Tim's point in an earlier segment, we're absolutely going to have a conversation with you about Roth conversions.
Absolutely.
Going ahead and prepaying those taxes when they're cheap to make sure you can keep as much of that income in your pocket 10, 15, 20 years from now is important, right? Because it helps you preserve those assets.
That's right.
Yeah, so going back to what Tim just said, it reminds me of Fred Flintstone, right? So he had a dependable income. It reminded me of Bugs Bunny, being adaptable, being flexible, letting your income plan breathe, because things are going to happen in life. Bobby, to your point, tax-efficient strategies reminds me of Richie Rich. He didn't have a tax-efficient strategy. Tim, give me another one.
I would say risk assessment is really important. All these factors that we're talking about, the taxable income that you're going to receive, is going to drive that conversation to some extent, but it's also going to be how you're going to feel about the risk in the market, right? Mm-hmm. We have some clients that come in and all their income is guaranteed. They're happy, like that they have what they need coming in for the rest of their life to take care of things. They don't necessarily need to supplement to fill an income gap there, but they still don't love the volatility that the market gives us.
Right.
And so we're looking at alternative ways in today's market to give them less risk so that they can go to bed and not have to worry and panic about what's happening in the market or who's going to be next in the White House or whatever the case may be, right?
So that reminds us a little bit of Daffy Duck.
That's right.
Right? Have a good emotion about what you're doing, Bobby.
It's really a conversation about risk capacity and risk tolerance, and those things are different. Right, your risk tolerance is how much risk can you afford to take in your retirement plan to make sure the X's and O's work.
Yeah.
Make sure the numbers are there. But that doesn't always line up with a lot of our clients about risk capacity. Right, some of them may say, "Listen, I've got my red bucket of money. It's my fun money. I love being in the stock market. I love watching it go up and down and sideways and loop-de-loop and all that sort of thing that the stock market does. Great." Other people say, "I don't like that one bit." Right?
Yeah.
And if they have their income secured, we can make sure that those things match up.
So don't be emotional like Daffy Duck. Don't hoard like Scrooge the Duck, and think ahead like George Jetson. That's right. You got to think ahead. Bobby, is there one more thing? We talked about income plan, a tax plan. Is there one more thing that fits in that?
I would
category?
add healthcare planning to that
Me too.
specifically, right? Just basic healthcare plan, Medicare planning. Make sure you have those everyday expenses taken care of. The important part of being able to work with somebody like Tanner Moore is once you have that coverage that's placed for you that works. Tim Brogan and I know exactly what, God forbid, the worst case scenario is for you for healthcare, right? We've gotten max out of pockets on those plans. We can make sure you have the financial means to take care of that. God forbid the worst happens.
Okay.
And then long-term care planning.
So we're going to jump into some mistakes people are making. But before I do that, let's do a rapid fire session. Tim, I'm going to start with you. Bugs Bunny, what was he?
Smart, stable, kind of knew what was coming down the road, right?
Yeah, adaptable.
Yep.
Yeah, flexible. I love that. Bobby, Daffy Duck.
Yeah, he was all over the place. Crazy, he would always make rash decisions, knee-jerk reactions. He was always spinning his beak around. I like that picture there.
Yeah. Tim, Scrooge McDuck.
Tight.
Yeah.
Didn't want to spend, nervous about what was happening, needed some guilt-free income.
Yeah, left lifestyle on the table.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He could have lived a better life if he wanted to.
Sure.
He was just afraid to for whatever.
Great point.
Yeah, Bobby Richie Rich.
Yeah, he just didn't have a plan, right? He was he was wealthy. He had all the money in the world, but he just wasn't using it efficiently.
He didn't have a tax plan.
Didn't have a tax plan. Paying Uncle Sam more, and it stressed him out having so much money.
Yeah, Tim, Fred Flintstone.
Fred Flintstone. Well, I think we decided he was a pretty healthy man, hauling rocks and whatnot, but very secured, right? Had a pension in place that was going to take care of his income for the rest of his life. Not much to worry about.
I love that. And last one, Bobby, George Jetson.
Looking forward, right? 4-year-old George Jetson right now would be proud. But in the cartoon, he was living in the future, and that's important to always be looking forward. Not to the first year of retirement, but 10, 15, 20
So you can actually learn a lot from these cartoon characters. Isn't that amazing? So let's talk about the biggest retirement mistakes we're seeing at Guardian Investment Advisors today, Tim. What's one of the biggest mistakes you see people when they're walking in our door right now?
We see a lot of I think just ignoring some of the chaos that's going on right now. One of the big things that I think we've talked to every single person about at this point is how to take advantage of your assets in a safe way.
Yeah.
So that you're not putting yourself in a position to go through another 2008. How do you put yourself in a position to not go through these ups and downs where bonds are in a world that don't work as effectively as they used to? Right?
They just don't have a plan.
That's right.
They have accounts. They have statements. They don't have a plan. Bobby, something else.
Yeah, I think to add to what Tim just said is people don't know where their income is going to come from.
Right.
They know where their money's at, but they don't know where that income is going to come from in retirement. We see a lot of people that come talk to us taking probably too much risk.
At a certain age.
At a certain age, right? We work with people of all ages, so if you're 20s, 30s, 40s, just getting started, I'd even argue early 50s, risk is your friend.
Yeah.
Right? That's where you're going to get the most return. But as you're getting ready for retirement, that risk can work against you in a big way. So you need to understand what kind of risk you're taking in your retirement savings and make sure it's appropriate for you at that particular
That's right. Tim, give me one more mistake people are making right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are waiting too long. If you don't know this already, you don't have to wait until you're retired a lot of times to move that 401k into some of these safe and efficient strategies that we're talking about. Most 401k plans have a provision in there called an in-service rollover, allowing you, if you're over the age of 59 and a half, to move that money from the 401k plan with the limited 12 to 24 options that you have to invest it in. They allow you to move it now because they know that there's only so many limited options inside that 401k plan, and they're giving you the option to go out and use the world of investment options to fit what you need in retirement.
So someone 60 years old could go ahead and start an income plan and have 5, 6, 7 years to grow it.
Even if you're still working,
Yeah.
you don't have to quit that job to do so.
And you can do the same thing if you're younger than that and you're no longer with that employer.
Right.
Take control of those 401k plans.
100%. I love that. Bobby, give me something else.
People are either unaware or ignoring the current tax window we're in, right? It is a huge opportunity. We've got close to, if not 50, almost 60 years of experience in this room. This is probably the best tax window any of us have ever seen.
Sure.
Tax planning right now is probably as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that's going to expire at the end of 2028. We're not sure what's going to happen after that.
Yeah.
So that's why time is on your side. You know, do it now. I'm going to finish it in saying your perfect retirement plan. Guys, you got to think about health care. I know we don't want to think about health care. We don't want to think about getting sick, but you've got to have a health care plan in place. And listen, if you're out there right now and you're between the ages of 64 and 65, please do not wait until you're 65 to come and talk to Tanner Moore to get on a Medicare plan. Start being proactive. Start planning now so that Tanner has time to work with you and get you on the right type of Medicare plan, because here's a fact. Medicare does not cover everything. So you need to make sure that you got a health care plan in place. Guys, we've learned a lot today from these cartoon characters. You got to have an income plan, you got to have a tax plan, you got to have a health care plan. We need to make sure that we set you up in our bucket system. Keep things simple so it's easy to understand what's going to happen in retirement, and you don't have to worry about some of these risks that the guys have been talking about today. We do this every single day for our clients, and we'd invite to do the same thing for you. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, you can scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen or go to plantodayoffer.com. They get a copy of my book, Plan Today on the Morrow. You can also text the word book in the Chattanooga area, 423-710-9199, 423-710-9199. If you're up in the Knoxville area, text the word book to 865-951-7526. I'll say it again, 865-951-7526. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this week on Plan Today on Tomorrow. We cannot wait to talk to you guys next week, because we're going to be talking about things you should do at different ages, working up into retirement and post-retirement on next week's show. We'll see you then. Take care. God bless.
That